My name is Joanne, and I want to say thank you for tuning in to the One to Another podcast. Today we're going to talk about solitude is the antidote to loneliness. In all the time that I have been a hospice chaplain, also being a bereavement coordinator, and just living life and losing, the greatest thing that I hear from the grieving people is, "I'm so lonely and I don't know how to handle this loneliness." And so today I want to talk about it from a little different perspective because I know that language has created the word loneliness to express the pain of being alone. It has created the word solitude to express the glory of being alone. Okay, you might not like the word glory, but the idea that you have found a secret for your life in being alone. The difference between loneliness and solitude is the lens through which we see our time alone, and how do we use that time? The lens of loneliness makes us insecure and prone to bad decisions. When we are alone, sometimes what we do is we eat too much, or maybe we watch too much TV. It's amazing to me how we can make bad decisions when we're alone. But the lens of solitude makes us open and curious. As such, solitude is the foundation on which, if we choose to, we can build on the loss or losses. Solitude is a place for you to begin to know yourself. If you use it to get to know yourself, there are many ways to move yourself towards the new normal in your grief. But that takes a lot of time. It takes being willing to admit the places where you know in solitude you move to a place that's not healthy. Let's talk about some ways to move from loneliness to solitude. Now, this whole idea of being alone in your solitude is something probably a lot of you have never thought about. But I think the first thing is presence. Make use of your solitude by being present with yourself. Hello, my name is Joanne. I'm alone, and I'm going to get to know myself. So we're going to talk to ourselves in such a way. Even when you're not with other people, we are often distracted and distanced from our own lives. When we pay attention to how we feel and the choices we're making, we can learn to prioritize our values, and these values can steer us to how we make decisions. So sometimes in this whole idea of being alone, sometimes as you introduce yourself to yourself, you say, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to just quiet down for a moment and see what is important to me and what's not. Being present and seeing your values gives you a sense of who you are. What is some of your values? Maybe you're one of your values is being a woman or man of integrity. Or maybe another one of your values is that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. Or one of your values is you're learning how to save some money and not just go out because you just don't know what to do with your time and you just start spending money. So we have to learn how to prioritize our values. Being present and seeing your values gives you a sense of who you are, and you get to decide if that's the person you want to be. You spend more time with yourself than you do anyone else in your lifetime. Think about that. How much time do you spend with yourself? A lot. And so take time to appreciate your strengths and admit to the areas that you need work. All of us are growing. Nobody's perfect. We're all learning. So you get to know your values. You look at your choices you make in different areas of your life. Are they tied to your values, or are they habits that maybe you want to change? If none of these seem like you, well, write down what does sound like you. Let's take, for instance, time choices. I like documenting my life for my friends, or social media is not my thing. Or I'd like to be in the here and now. What kind of a choice? Maybe if none of those sound like you, write down your own. How about your habits and how you're organized? I keep everything tidy. I wish I was more organized than I am. How do you feel about that value? Exercise. I'd like to be more active or do it for my health. Or I find it really hard to get motivated. How about your health habits? Are you thinking I eat healthy food or I do the best I can? Or maybe we say life is short. I want to eat what tastes good. How about your sleep habits? I like to sleep in if possible. I'm an early riser. How about your money? How are you spending your money? Is my focus on saving for the future? Or do I spend when I get it, I spend it? How about your vacations? What kind of a vacation do you like? Do you like extraordinary, extravagant trips? Or do you travel on a budget? Or you know what? Maybe you just don't enjoy traveling. How about your home, your clothing, and your car? Do you keep it simple? Or do you like the finer things? And maybe that has to do with your money. Maybe you like the finer things, so you're willing to save until you have enough, and then you buy the finer things. Purchases. I buy things spontaneously. My purchases are carefully contemplated. How about your social interactions? I like to spend time with lots of people, or I prefer one-on-one time, or I like to be alone. How about your family, if they're around? I see my family as often as I can. I only see my family when I have to. How about conversation? I like to discuss all kinds of topics in detail. I am a person of few words. Well, take a look at that. Does that say anything to you? Does that help you begin to figure out what your values are and what's important to you? So the first one we talked about was taking a look at being present with yourself and evaluating a little bit about who you are. And the second one, in learning to move to a place to appreciate solitude, is discomfort. Because of your loss, you've been alone and you don't know what to do with yourself. If you find it awkward and uncomfortable, but it's time to challenge yourself in some small ways, make use of your time alone. Maybe as you're thinking of what you're going to do with your time, maybe you will commit to a new skill. Maybe that's going to take weeks to learn something new, or months, or even longer to develop. Maybe taking singing lessons. Or, okay, this is going to sound funny, but maybe you want to learn to roller skate. Or maybe you really want to learn how to bake bread. Or maybe you want to learn how to play an instrument. Or how about travel alone? This is a great activity to try if you're scared to being alone. So let me ask you this. Are you indecisive or decisive? When you go on a trip, are you a light packer or a heavy packer? Are you mellow or are you active? Are you content or are you bored? Are you neat or are you messy? Are you organized or are you spontaneous? Questions. Do you have conversations in your head or is it your internal experience quiet? Can you say to yourself, when things get in your head, can you quiet it down? Are you confident in or questioning your choices? Have you ever maybe thought, yes, I really need to buy a new washer, but I don't think I want to do that now. I mean, you question everything in your choice. Do you feel self-conscious or confident? What aspects of travel most appeal to you? Where would you like to go next? See, these are questions that you're asking in your head. Or maybe you're going to talk to somebody else about it. But it's in the solitude you can begin to even journal about these things. What aspects of yourself are you consistent in, no matter what you do? Are you always on time for meetings? Maybe maybe something that you're really consistent in is when someone says, call me, you call them. Or maybe it could be something else. But what is it in your life you're very consistent? And what do you discover about yourself? When you're by yourself, what do you discover? Do you prefer to be given clear directions, or do you work independently? Do you like to work independently or work with people? Would you like to experience new opportunities in your life? Well, you know what? Those are good questions. In solitude, as you've gone through change, as you've gone through loss, these are things that you can talk to yourself about and maybe write down your answers. And then maybe when you're with someone, you can talk to them about what you're thinking and what's going on. So the third thing that we take a look at is confidence. Once we're comfortable in solitude, then we can work on confidence. Confidence is the feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's abilities or qualities. We build confidence by making time for things that matter to us. There are aspects of your life that we don't like and maybe we want to change. We have a choice. We can change our mindset or change what we don't like. That's true. You can either change your mindset or change what you don't like. We need to make the effort to change our lives. Change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And so, what are you going to do with these changes and with this solitude? And I would ask you, in what areas do you most want to grow? How about in your personality? Let me ask you a question. Do you like yourself? As you're beginning to know yourself, do you like yourself? Or maybe I like myself when others like me. Or how about I appreciate myself despite my fears and work to improve myself? You know what? I'm okay with where I am. Well, the last one is I really want to change. What is really important to you right now? I hope you can think about that. Where do you need to get in your life? What are you struggling with? Is there anything maybe someone can help you get there? And the last thing is what are you grateful for? Maybe you're grateful that you got two eyes that you can see, or you're grateful for the fact that you're very nimble and exercising has been important. Or maybe you're grateful today just for the sun coming out, even if it's for a short time. So I want to make a suggestion, and I had a group of people that I was teaching this whole topic to, and I gave them a suggestion. And this was my suggestion. Next time you spend time alone, write down what you did. Were you comfortable or uncomfortable? You can't count sleeping, sorry. Pick an activity that you rarely or have never done by yourself. How about seeing a movie? Making reservation for dinner alone? Go for a hike? Hey, maybe go to a party that you've never gone to. Or maybe engage in a volunteering opportunity. Write down how you react to a new situation, observe your thoughts, and talk to yourself about how hard it was for you to be alone. And, I challenged a whole group of people to do this. I asked them to think about something that is very challenging to them and that they wanted to try to do to conquer a place in their life where they really needed to change. One person said, you know what? I just can't drive out of town. I can drive in the city, but I can't go out of the city. And she took up the challenge and she drove herself to a city nearby by herself. And then she answered these questions. How long did it take to feel uncomfortable? She said when she started it, she said, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to do it. And the question is, are you better able to enjoy yourself alone? Do you wish there was another person there? Is it hard to know what to do with yourself? What were the pros and cons of being by yourself? She said that she was so excited that she made it to her destination, that when she got to her destination, she patted herself on the back and said, "You know what? You did it. I'm proud that you did it." I had someone else go on a trip. They do not like to travel by airplane, and they went on a trip. And they found out that they could have a wonderful time. They got there, they weren't anxious, they enjoyed the time, and she found out that she could get on an airplane, go someplace, and do something by herself. So, you know what? I don't know what yours is. I can remember the first time I decided to go out to dinner by myself. And I thought, I've always gone out to dinner with other people, but I'm going to do this. I am going to go out to dinner by myself. And I can remember that when I got into the restaurant and the person that was taking your reservations said, "How many for dinner?" I said, "One, please." She looked at me and said, "Only one?" I said, "Yes, only one." And I could see that she was a little disgusted that it was just one. So she took me to a table that was clear back at the end of the restaurant and made sure that I was by myself. But you know what? I enjoyed myself. I loved just watching people and just enjoyed the atmosphere of the place. And I remember when the waiter came to take my order, said, "Oh, are you expecting someone else?" "No, sir, I'm not. I'm ready to order." "Oh, are you all by yourself?" "Yes, sir, I am." And he took my order. It wasn't just a few minutes. He came back with the order. In other words, he didn't really want me to be there by myself. But I enjoyed my dinner. I took the time. And I found out that I could go to a restaurant by myself and enjoy it whether anybody else wanted me there or not. I took the courage to do something I'd never done. So my question to you is, are you willing to try something alone and see what happens when maybe you go to a party all by yourself or whatever I've challenged you with? I'm asking you to pick an activity that you rarely or have never done by yourself and see how you do. I think it's step by step, moment by moment, that we learn how to do what we do, and we start saying things to ourselves that make a difference. And sometimes our self-talk then, after we try something, can be something like, "I can and will face this one day at a time. I did this. I can face this. I can do it again." And then I would say to myself, others have actually suffered all kinds of loss, and they've gone out and they've done things by themselves. You know what? I can do this too. And I think that sometimes we have to say, I can move through this, and I can move through this and beyond my grief, because someday I can be who I need to be, and I can be by myself and love myself. You know what? We'll always, whatever kind of loss you've been through, you're always going to keep that loved one in your heart. And I think they're cheering you on when you can say, "I can and I will survive this." So, what about this whole idea of solitude? Somebody said, "Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended, not with time, but as they say, with intention." So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world awaits in darkness for the light that you have. Someone else said the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. To be your own man or woman is hard business, but if you try it, you will be lonely, often, and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. So how are you going to do this? Are you going to begin to own yourself? I think you will. I think you'll begin, and I think you'll find yourself saying, you know what? I will face this one day at a time, one step at a time. I can embrace solitude and grow from it. So today I hope you'll take a step towards healing. If it's one step, then you know what? You're growing.